Welcome to Reinventing You, a podcast of the Reinvention Collaborative, a Boyer-inspired national consortium of research universities dedicated to innovation and excellence in undergraduate education. We're recording Reinventing You to bring you cutting-edge perspectives from experts in undergraduate education on issues impacting students, faculty, administrators, policymakers, anyone with a stake in undergraduate higher ed. We're your hosts, Steve Dandino and Liz Mock, coming to you from the Reinvention Collaborative home office at Colorado State University, Fort Collins, Colorado.
Today's guest is Charlie Nutt, the Executive Director of NACADA, the Global Community for Academic Advising, who is joining us today from Albuquerque, New Mexico. So what's going on in Albuquerque, Charlie?
This is the 16th annual NACADA Academic Advising Assessment Institute that's going on for the next 3 days, and we've got about 125 people from across the world who are here learning about how to assess academic advising and hopefully go back and put action plans into place on their campuses.
Well, that sounds like a great event, and you have another event coming up right after that, right?
We have two more. We have a seminar on Sunday and Monday about collaborations across campuses, bringing together academic and student affairs toward the main goal of student success. And then we end the week with the Administrators Institute. This is the 17th annual Administrators Institute. And for the past few years, we've been very happy to be co-sponsoring that with the Reinvention Collaborative. So we're looking forward to Steve being with us and Reinvention Collaborative's work in supporting that event.
We're very glad to be a part of that event, and I know that Steve and Beth Loazo from Boston University and Amy Burkert from Carnegie Mellon have really enjoyed being faculty members at the Administrators Institute. So could you begin with a little background on yourself and NACADA? So how did your career path bring you to NACADA?
I was working as an English faculty member at a community college in Southeast Georgia. Started there in 1987, and we had a SACS accreditation visit shortly after I got there, and the accrediting body gave us 14 recommendations, and of those, all of them dealt with academic advising and student success issues. And so for some reason, my president at the time was brand new, and she thought I could fix advising. I'm not sure why she did, but she thought I could. I was a faculty member. We were a total faculty model. And I found out about NACADA quite by accident and got connected with the association. I took the very first group of faculty from what was then Brunswick College. It's now Coastal Georgia Community College. But took that first group of 9 faculty to a conference in Birmingham, Alabama in 1991, and have been involved ever since.
And for those that are unfamiliar with NACADA, could you tell us about its mission, how many members you have, and what you think are NACADA's most significant contributions?
Absolutely. NACADA is the Global Community for Academic Advising. We used to be known as the National Academic Advising Association, but several years ago we reached out globally because we recognized that student success is an issue across the globe. Really doesn't matter where you're located or what type of institution, the issues are the same. We're getting ready to hold our, I believe it is 8th International Conference in Belgium this coming July. But we've got about just over 15,400 members across the world. And our mission is truly focusing on student success. and focusing on what are the roles that academic advisors, whether they be faculty, whether they be primary role advisors, whether they be administrators. Our membership is probably one of the widest, I think, in higher education, because academic advising is done so differently at so many different institutions. So our membership has presidents, has chancellors, deans, faculty, primary role advisors, administrators, pretty much the whole gamut, because academic advising touches so many parts of a campus. So our true mission is really focused on student success through the role academic advising plays in that.
Could we dig into that just a little bit more, Charlie? What is the
Sure.
role? What is the role that academic advising plays currently? What should it be? And what are the challenges that's preventing us from getting to that better place where we want to get to?
Um, the role, I think, is research indicates, as literature indicates, the role of academic advising is being that contact for the student on the campus, being that one person that student knows they can connect with, teaching students how to be successful in college. What are those things that they need to know, being sure that they know all the basic information and policies and procedures and all of those things, but really being that connecting point. There was an article recently in the Chronicle that I'm sure many of you saw that said that students say they learn best from people they love and they know love them. And I thought it was a really interesting article, because it truly does point out that it's the relationship that matters. And so that relationship between an advisor and a student is key to whether that student remains enrolled and then ultimately completes. I think the challenges we face, Steve, is the fact that, number one, it was a challenge and a strength. The strength and challenge both is there are so many different models for advising, so that it is very difficult often for a student to always understand exactly who to connect with. And that's the campus's or the institution's responsibility to make that clear to students. I think the other key challenge is it is not and has never been, but we've always had a conflict with the fact that it touches both academic and student affairs sides of house, or instructional and student affairs. And we know without a doubt that there are on many campuses those brick walls or block walls or fences or whatever you want to call them between those two entities on a campus. And so bringing together both the academic and the student affairs side toward focus on the student success is probably the biggest challenge that academic advising has in being seen as more than just a scheduling or registration activity. And when it's seen as just that, then students learn nothing from it. When it's seen as a teaching and learning experience, and it's a collaborative partnership in which the entire campus is involved, then it makes a huge difference in students' lives.
So, Charlie, you've helped NACADA grow considerably over the years. What words of wisdom can you share about leadership in higher ed? What do we need to do as leaders to reach goals that we all say we want to reach?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I would say I helped NACADA grow. I think I've been fortunate to work with a lot of very amazing people over my career. But I will respond to the leadership piece. I think a key aspect of leadership in higher ed, whether we're in an association or whether we're on a campus, has to be honesty. It has to be sincerity. It has to truly be focused on collaboration and not competition. A college campus, regardless of how complex it is or as simple as it is in structure, has to be totally built upon collaboration. And unfortunately, in higher ed, we still have a great deal of competition between colleges, between units, between areas, between states, between systems, whatever the case may be. And I firmly believe that when you're focused on competing and not collaborating, it's the student who gets lost. It's not the institution. It's not you. It's not the person who won or the person who lost. It's the student, because we can't do it alone. Faculty cannot by themselves ensure students are successful in their classroom or in their degree or in their completion of whatever the program may be. Academic advisors cannot by themselves ensure that students are successful. It takes a collaboration across the campus, and the leadership has to begin that collaborative culture. So we're really talking about shifting a culture away from a competitiveness to a collaborative focus. And as leaders in higher education today, we find that often we don't see that true collaboration. It's easy to talk about. It's more difficult to achieve. It's much quicker and faster to put in new initiatives that are created without a collaborative culture built around it and see if they work than it is to truly change a campus to be a collaborative environment in which students live, succeed, work together, and work with each other. So true leadership in higher education, I will always believe, is based upon collaboration, on partnerships, on a caring attitude, and on a belief that everyone on campus matters, and that it is essential that we bring together the entire campus community to talk about student success and not simply give lip service to that concept.
Well, I think we definitely appreciate the importance of collaboration and having that collaborative culture, and not just on the campus, but by bringing people together from all over the country, and as NACADA is globally, to make sure that we're serving our students, sharing best practices, and giving those students the best experiences that they can have.
One thing I'd add there, Liz, is that there's no way a campus can be a Boyer-inspired national consortium or a Boyer-inspired campus without collaboration. And if people truly believe in what Boyer said, and I know you do, and I know your group does, he was built on, everything he talked about was collaboration. And that's why I'm so impressed with the Reinvention Collaborative. I always have been, and been so thrilled to have the opportunity to partner with that is your association, because of that connection to Boyer and what he really talked about, that learning is a collaborative social activity, and we have to do it together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we haven't squarely addressed it yet. You talked a little bit about it, but achievement gaps and social inequality are significant issues that our institutions are facing. So what role do you think the advising community plays in addressing this set of issues?
I think you're exactly right. Achievement gaps and equity gaps, I think, are one of the biggest challenges higher education is facing today. We focused a great deal on access and getting people in the door, but we've not done enough to deal with those gaps that they brought with them. I'm quoted a lot by saying, and I firmly believe, we've got to quit talking about students at risk and talk about the risk factors that they face and how do we deal with those, and to recognize that it is really not talking about changing the student, but changing the institution's culture to deal with those achievement gaps or those equity gaps. I think academic advising is key to that culture because obviously for most students, that's their first contact with any representative of the campus. And if that very first contact, that student in any way feels that their lack of achievement or that they're being a different color or a different sexual identity or a different ethnic background, whatever the case may be, has any type of bearing on their success, then obviously they're not going to ever feel welcomed or at home at that institution. So advising is key in working with the faculty and working with the rest of student services to ensure that our campuses are a welcoming place for all. They're a place in which student success is focused upon for all of our students, and recognizing that the institution has a huge responsibility in ensuring that they're doing curriculum revision, that they're doing focusing on what their gateway courses may look like, in building a partnership between the academic and the student affairs side of the house, wherever academic advising may fall, to be able to speak as one voice to those students. I think one of the problems we have with academic and achievement gaps and equity gaps is students clearly are a lot smarter than anyone ever gives them credit for. They recognize sincerity immediately, and they recognize when someone is just saying the right words, but their heart's not there. And they recognize when an entire campus has a great motto or a great new theme that they're using to try to bring in students, but when they get to that campus by no means is living that true vision of what a welcoming, inviting, and supporting campus looks like. So advising plays a key role in it, but it cannot do it alone. It's one part of a campus's culture shift toward that.
Charlie, this is so important. I just wanted to follow up. NACADA can be a resource for folks, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you have publications. What other kinds of materials or resources might a campus that was trying to take very seriously this issue that you're describing, what could they seek from NACADA that could help them move forward?
Well, we have obviously, Steve, the many professional development events. We have the Assessment Institute, Administrators Institute, the Summer Institute. We have, 10 region conferences. We have the annual conference every October. We have the international conference. We have a multitude of web events. We have multitude of publications. But, one of the things several of the things that I think NACADA provides that supports all of that is we've tried to clearly define what the competencies are for academic advising that focus on clearly how do we achieve working with those students who have achievement gaps? How do we change our campuses to be equity-based and not just say that word? We clearly have developed a set of core competencies that focus on, more than anything else, the concept of caringness, of knowing who students are, knowing who the campus is, knowing who you are as an advisor. We have the concept of advising that clearly points out that advising is a teaching and learning experience. And then our relatively new 9 conditions of excellence as part of our partnership with the John Gardner Institute on the Excellence in Academic Advising program all of those foundational pieces, I think, bring to light the various events, the various activities that we have, but they get at the foundation. They're what we call our core pillars of academic advising. Because if you don't know what advising is, if you don't know what advising looks like, if you don't know what quality advising does for your campus, then you're never ever going to really be able to, in my opinion, learn a great deal from all of our events, of all of our activities that we may have. You got to first begin at home. And you got to first begin by truly defining the roles for advisors on your campus. Um, you know, you work at you and Liz are at a land grant institution as K-State is. I say all the time, if you go to the dictionary and look up decentralization, you probably see land grant colleges. There's the picture. No one's more decentralized than a land grant campus, but that doesn't mean that we can't have a clear understanding, mission, values that we all understand and buy into, and that we define clearly what's the role of a primary role advisor, what's the role of a faculty advisor, what's the role of a peer advisor, and what's the student's role in advising. And building upon those competencies, building upon the core values, building upon the concept of advising, building upon the 9 conditions of excellence, utilizing the CAS standards for advising on a campus. These are all ways that NACADA can support institutions to then allow their members to gain as much as they can from our events, from our publications, from our webcasts, and hopefully take back to campus what they've learned in order to implement new things on their campuses. You both know that I'm a strong believer in higher education has worked in isolation for too long, and we've worked as separate little islands, and that I'm a firm believer that we must begin to partner together with other associations such as Reinvention Collaborative and ASCU and APLU and NASPA and the Gardner Institute, because for too many years we've even worked in silos. So we need to come together, because all of our campus constituencies have their own professional association they feel their allegiance to. If we're not all working together to send the same message back home with the members who come to our meetings, then they're going back home with entirely different messages. And we need to work more closely to make sure that that happens. That when people come home from the Reinvention Collaborative and other folks come home from NACADA, they get together, they say, this is what we talked about. Well, that's exactly what we talked about at the Reinvention Collaborative. How can we work together now to bring this as a partnership on campus? And if we don't do that, then we're really failing higher education for the future. I'm old. I'm fortunate enough that I'm at the end of my career. This is my 42nd year in higher education, in education generally. And so, when I talk about the future, and even when I talk about the next decade, I know I'm not going to be around to see all of that occurring from a distance, hopefully sitting on the beach with a margarita somewhere. But I do think that the future of higher education is not just dependent upon building a culture of collaboration and partnership on campuses, but it's also building that same community and culture of partnership and collaboration among our various associations, because we have so much impact on so many parts of a campus who are getting different messages from different associations. And so we've got to start working together more to ensure that community colleges, small liberal arts colleges, land grant colleges, of massive online universities, colleges in the UK, colleges in China, universities in Japan. They're all getting the same message. And they're all getting the message that we're here for student success. Students are not numbers. They are people who have feelings and have goals and dreams and aspirations. And if we don't begin to look past the numbers and look at those people, then we're never going to reach those numbers that focus on retention and completion. Y'all know I firmly believe we must increase dramatically the graduation completion rates in higher education. But the people and the collaboration among the people is what reaches those numbers. I've never known an institution anywhere in my life who said our goal is to increase our retention by 10%, but they did nothing in collaborative nature to make that occur and meet those numbers. The focus is improving the undergraduate experience. How do we do that? We work together to do that. And when the students have the best undergraduate experience possible, you will see your retention rates grow. You will see your completion rates grow. I mean, Vincent Tinto has been telling us that for years. Boyer told that for years. We need to start listening and putting into action what we know, but what is difficult to do. It's not easy. It's hard. We didn't get into higher education because we thought it was easy. I tell advisors and faculty all the time, if you got into higher education because you thought you were going to make money, you needed a better academic advisor. We're here because we care, and we're here because we believe in our students, but we can't do it alone. And working together is how we must make this happen. That's much more than you really wanted me to say there, Steve. I'm sorry.
No, that was, for our listeners, you're listening to a very seasoned, highly experienced higher ed professional, a scholar, a leader who's giving you the straight scoop. And I can hear people saying, right on, man, and here, all around the country and world. I wanted to ask you, Charlie, because NACADA has been so ambitious, more recently, I suppose, in traveling around the world and connecting with higher education systems and the folks doing academic advising work in different countries, as you pointed out. Is there anything we should be learning here in the U.S. from our colleagues in other countries? I know you're sharing what we do and think here, but how's what's there to learn from our good friends and colleagues around the world?
It's really exciting to see some of the really great research that's going on across many of the institutions in China and in Japan, in the UAE, in South Africa. There's some great work that's coming out of the University of the Free State in South Africa. They've recently done some really interesting publications and research out of that institution. Steve, having been at K-State and having helped be part of the committee that formed the Research Center for Academic Advising, or NACADA's Center for Research at K-State and the College of Education, my goal is to begin to become the clearinghouse for all of that research so we can begin to learn from each other and to begin to partner with other countries and other institutions about that type of research. It's amazing. We tend to think that we're the only folks interested in first-generation students anywhere. One of the most fascinating sessions that I've heard recently on some really interesting quality research about first-generation students is from a small research university in China. And they follow a cohort of first-generation students from their very start at the university until their end, but did a great deal of work with those students that they lost to find out why. And one of the things that they discovered is what we know is first generation students don't know what university is about in their terminology, and that when we bring them in and pretend they do or treat them like they do, they're the ones who leave, and they're the easiest ones to leave. Well, that sounds very simplistic, and we all know that. But to see a university in China having followed a cohort for 6 years, but then actually going back into the communities to speak and talk to those students they lost and hear those students' voices, it was fascinating. And so the international conference is a great place to hear what is going on at other universities. I won't say they're doing anything that we're not doing here in the States, Steve, but I would say that we don't know all that they're doing because we've not delved into it. And I'm very proud that NACADA has taken that initiative to delve into what's happening internationally so we can learn from our colleagues.
So, Charlie, if you were king for a day, what are the changes you'd make?
I'm not already king for a day?
You are, but
Okay.
King God.
yes. If you could make any changes to advising on the nation's campuses or globally, what changes would you make?
Oh my God, there's so much, Liz. I'm going to try to be brief and to the point, and y'all both know already that's not easy for me. I'm an English faculty member. We like to talk. First and foremost, that a campus would have a clear definition of what student success is, and then what academic advising is that supports student success. I'm amazed the campuses I visit. I just visited a very, very large community college district and was shocked. I shouldn't have been, but was, that there is no comprehensive, understood definition of what even student success is. So, if we don't know what student success is, then how do we know what we're searching for and reaching for? So if I were king for the day, one of the first things I would do is have every single campus spend a time together, bring together all their constituencies, and just defining student success. What does that look like? Because it's more than your retention numbers. It's more than your graduation numbers. It has to be, or higher education, is it improving society? We can have as many graduates as we want, and our society never improve. And so, what is student success? And then next, what is academic advising? How does it relate to that? Define the roles for the advisors on campuses. Assess academic advising in terms of learning, in terms of its effectiveness in building relationships with students. Move away from simply satisfaction surveys. Students are like any other consumer in the world. We are happy when we get what we want. We're not happy if we don't get what we want. And so the satisfaction surveys tell us nothing about the real quality of the advising experience that the students had in that office. And then begin to have true, honest dialogue about the literature, involving advisors in the literature, in the research. We've got to begin to change the culture of the advising profession and the advising community to recognize that if we as a profession want to be seen as truly part of the academic mission, then we have to begin to act in that way, which means we need to be reading the literature. We need to be reading what's occurring on campuses, and then we need to become part of the writing, part of the research. And that's not something that's in every advisor's DNA. That's not what's in every faculty member's DNA. I'm a first generation student. I plan to teach English in high school for 30 years and retire. That was my goal. I somehow got into this wonderful roller coaster I'm in. But I can tell you, I searched long and hard to find a master's degree that did not require a thesis because I was petrified of research. And so one of the things we've got to do, if I were king for a day, is begin to make research an expectation for advisors, but teaching them how to do research, teaching them what research is, teaching them what action research is, and then teaching them how to partner with faculty to begin to build a research culture on campus around what helps us be successful, which also makes my last point, if I were king for the day, and that would be to begin to look seriously at the tenure and promotion process for faculty. We're never going to get where we want to be with the campus truly having a culture of success when faculty research into student success, into advising, into achievement gaps, into equity gaps is accepted and is respected by tenure and promotion committees. As long as that is seen as less than in research, then higher education is never going to reach where we could be in truly being the changing force in society. We're in a world right now where education is not always valued, where it's easier to get by with great slogans about making things great and moving things forward without education. And we have to change that, but we have to change it by recognizing that quality research about why students are successful has to be respected on campuses by our academic side of the house, by our deans, by our promotion and tenure committees, and then partnerships with research across the institution has to become the norm, not the exception.
Charlie, we're so appreciative of your time today. Does Your Highness have any final thoughts, or are there any questions that we neglected to ask that we ought to have?
No, I think you were right on target with your questions. I'm sure I was way overboard in my responses, but I appreciate this opportunity. I'm really very excited about this new activity and new venture that the Reinvention Collaborative is doing with these podcasts. We need these. We need to begin talking to each other, and what a great way to start doing that. We got to get out of our little towers and our little fiefdoms and talk to everyone. And what a great opportunity with these podcasts. So I just applaud the Reinvention Collaborative, you and Liz, for beginning this. And I'm so thankful to be one of the first people that you've asked to be a part of this. I'm quite honored. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Charlie. And thanks to our listeners. Thanks so much for listening to Reinventing You, a podcast of the Reinvention Collaborative. Many, many thanks to our distinguished guest and friend, Dr. Charlie Nutt, Executive Director of NACADA, the Global Community for Academic Advising. To learn more about NACADA, go to www.nacada.ksu.edu or just Google NACADA, that is NACADA. To learn more about the Reinvention Collaborative, check us out at reinventioncollaborative, all one word, .org. RC members can listen to an extended version of this interview at the members section of this site. Thanks to my co-host, Steve.
Thanks, Liz. And thanks to all our Reinventing You listeners.